A friend and I went to the Palouse area of Washington, eastern Washington, and into Idaho, where there's these beautiful rolling soft hills with wheat fields, very sensuous. And we took pictures around sunset, the golden hour, but were met with less than desirable conditions with a lot of haze. So how do you get from this to this? So we got up to Steptoe Butte, and things weren't quite looking like we'd hoped. It was actually hot and very humid, and had conditions that looked very different from what we desired. So how do you get from something like this or this to something like this? Um, well, obviously one of the first things you're going to think of is the haze. So we might as well look and see what that starts doing just to make things easier to see as we start developing all the other features that we have available to us. So I'll take it up moderately to start with. We can fiddle with the exposure, maybe take it down closer, boost the contrast, I think. I don't think I'm going to take the highlights down, but I am going to reduce the shadows a bit. Maybe we will take up the highlights, but mostly it's going to be things like the white level and the black level that are going to affect this. And we'll put in some texture, some clarity, maybe a bit more of the dehaze, and then let's warm it up quite a bit. Something along those lines is starting to look better to me. Yeah. So you can already see that we're starting to get in this direction, and we just need to play with it more, get the color the way we want, to pull up the vibrance a heck of a lot more than you would normally ever think of taking up the vibrance. It's just that the dynamic range of what was available to us in that haze is just awful. So again, a little warmer. And now we're starting to look a lot more like that, aren't we? So these are different frames, but you get the idea. Take that total exposure down. And then once you have that, go ahead and remove some distractions, by the way. So I would get rid of that dust spot, and keep going through, removing sensor dust. Dehaze really tends to bring it out. Apply that. And then I would also get rid of telephone poles and wires if they're visible. I think they're distracting. We're trying to give this soft, sensuous look to the photo, and those kind of interrupt that. And of course, how you develop this is all to your own personal taste. You can make it look a bit more graphic and softer by taking that texture a bit down. I like that a little better. I'll look at that clarity again, make it a little more intense. And that's looking better. But I think this part of the sky is not helping. I would bring that down and decide how you want this composed. I think these little things down here are distracting. Might as well get them out with the crop. Something along those lines. I'm a fan of actually 16 by 9 kind of thing, so we can look at that. And that puts this group kind of rule of thirds, this group kind of rule of thirds. And we get also this nice atmospheric perspective. So I would probably call that close to the end. If you want, you can play with color grading and say that you want your midtones to be warmer, somewhere here. Play with their brightness. And the same with the highlights, is that you may want a little more color in the highlights. And play with that level. And then the shadows I usually like to be opposite, kind of into this blue region. not that blue. I'm holding down the Shift key, and then you can darken it a bit. If it's too dark, you can go back up to basic and maybe bring those blacks back up a bit, or bring up the shadows, or go back to color grading. Keep it soft. So that would probably be a final look, yes? And then once I have that, I go over and I click on the plus button and create a new preset. And I named it probably one of these Palouse Golden Hour, something like that. That way, you get to the next photograph and you don't want to have to go through the work we just went through. You can just go ahead and apply the same settings. We also wanted to explore some other opportunities, more intimate scenes of the countryside, the rural life, different subjects, trees, rolling hills, perhaps different from what you see at Steptoe Butte because now you're a bit closer. And the residents also seem to be inviting photographers at times by preserving these antiques. There's also opportunity for black and white photography. The contrast of different fields tends to occur a little later than we were there, but we did get lucky with some spots. It seemed like we were stopping the car sometimes every 100 to 500 yards just because the short distances brought up some other opportunity, like these repeating forms, or an opportunity for black and white, which is fun as well, getting repeating patterns, high contrast black and white to simplify things a little better. And then back to the rolling sensuous hills. This is a Topaz Studio impression of a canola field. This is my favorite shot of all. Well, I hope you enjoyed visiting the Palouse as I interpreted it through photography.